Hi there, you're listening to Lee from the Plump DJs, and this is the Liverpool Connection Podcast.
Hi everyone, welcome to the Liverpool Connection Podcast. I'm your host Daz. This is my music and football episode where I bring on a DJ, producer, musician to talk about the two loves, which are football and music. And I cannot wait to get into this. My next guest, absolute legend, DJ, producer, composer, label boss at Perfecto Records, is the man himself, Mr. Paul Oakenfold. We're going to get into him supporting Chelsea, why he supports Chelsea, because I've got that big question for him as well. Paul, welcome to the pod, mate.
How are you?
I'm good.
Nice to meet you, Dad.
After yesterday's smash and grab win, my arse is clapping.
Yeah, I'm sure. And congratulations, because first of all, when it comes to any European competition, I always want the English team to win. So I was certainly following, watching, and supporting Liverpool. And also, in all fairness, we've all got a second team, maybe a third that we love and support, and because of my connections with Liverpool and being so close, being the resident of Cream in Liverpool every Saturday, going up, driving up, flying up, I have a very big soft spot for Liverpool. So I would say they're my second team. So I'm really happy at the moment that you're doing well in both the Champions League and, of course, the Premiership, because we haven't got a chance to win it. So as long as you guys stop Arsenal, that's all that matters.
Ah, bless you. I love that. Yeah, we've got to stop Arsenal 100%. I used to go to Cream like every week, so you were my go-to person in the courtyard, and then Youssef obviously in the annex. I want to first ask you, obviously, football is a big part of your life as well. When did you start actually going to the Bridge?
I was like many kids, girl or boys, you'd go with your family, and that's how you get introduced to the team you support. The strange, weird thing about this story that I'm going to tell you, it wasn't my direct family who took me to a game. It was a friend of the family, a very close friend of the family. Sid Steele was his name. He was going to see Chelsea, and I don't necessarily remember this because I was, as I say, 6, 7 at the time. But my father told me that he was like, "Yeah, Sid can take you to see a football game," because my dad was working, and that game was a Chelsea game, and my family. My father, my brother, my cousins, everyone are Arsenal fans. So I am that black sheep of the family who went to Chelsea with my dad's friend, and we came home with a blue scarf and a blue shirt going on blue, and my dad going, "Oh no, what have I done? Why have I let this happen?" Meanwhile, my brother, my younger brother and sister were both Arsenal cousins, friends, the lot. So that was my first experience into football.
Do you remember your first match?
Well, I remember. I think it was Chelsea Crystal Palace, and I got that whole bug of going, seeing, experiencing, being the kid on the terraces. It was the shed end that we stood, and you're overwhelmed with that moment where it's a bunch of people all standing singing songs, trying to understand the songs. It's part of our culture, British culture is that moment where every kid at one time in their life, if they love football, want to play and imagine scoring. And I was no different to everyone else. I played, I was in the team, I did everything I could do to have that moment. And it's commitment, huge commitment, which I'll come on to later with football.
So who was your footballing hero growing up?
Peter Osgood, Peter Bonetti, Charlie Cook, Ian Hutchinson, Ian Hutchinson, because why everyone would sing that song? Because he was one of the first people who had the long throw. So every time the ball goes out, the crowd sing that song, and that was one of the first songs you ever, because it's easy, I presume, to sing. And then, of course, blue is the colour. Football is the game, and you get drawn into the songs. And Chelsea were, I suppose, because of the King's Road, and I didn't really know what that was at the time, but Chelsea's cool. It's the cooler part of London. So I like that. And it was just a case of you got the bug, then you go.
Mm-hmm. Well, with the DJing side, when you started DJing, obviously you're going to miss a lot of home matches. So when you're away, are you just like, I've talked to a bunch of DJs and producers, they're looking around for a pub or for, like before the gig, if they can get to watch their favorite football team. Are you hardcore doing that?
Well, that's a good question, because that was how I approached my residency. Well, first of all, I was a season ticket holder for many years. So my process was on a Saturday, I'd go to Chelsea, and then from there at 5:30, there'd be a car pick me up, take me to the airport, get on a flight, and would land in Manchester and then drive across to Liverpool. That was the process I had for home games. Because I was the resident every Saturday, I was only available Fridays, and not every Friday, to play around the country. So, for instance, if you wanted to book me, I would look at the fixtures and I'd say, okay, you want me to play in Leicester on Friday night? Part of the deal is I play Leicester Friday night and Chelsea are at Leicester Saturday. So I would go to the Leicester game, and you, the promoter, would have to get me a pair of tickets. And then from Leicester, Cream would send a car to pick me up and drive me to Liverpool. So for a good few seasons, I didn't travel abroad, and I had it down pretty well. So I was going home and away to a lot of the games. And then when I quit my residency at Cream, I then got back into traveling internationally. And then you watch football from afar. I mean, that's how it kind of works when you're traveling. I mean, we're both in Texas at the moment. You're down the road from me. Chelsea are playing Copenhagen. I'll watch it later, or live. If I was doing the interview an hour before the kickoff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you've got to get your timing spot on.
Yeah, I think the thing with football is what I've learned. I mean, we when I say we, Chelsea, of course, we went through many, many years of not winning things, right? And I was at that. That's when I got into Chelsea. We won the occasional FA Cup, or we went down. I remember one season we went down at the time in the Division 2, and we came back up, and they were our big moments to come back up in Division 1 or get to Wembley for an FA Cup. That's really as far as it went. I mean, Chelsea were, it was tough. And then you had Matthew Harding came into the club when Ken Bates was the chairman, and things started to change. And that was the real great moment for us, because with that influx of money came new players. And, we're talking about Ruud Gullit, Zola, Frank Leboeuf, we're talking about Dessay. I mean, the list goes on and on and on and on. Vialli. We would grab those players at the end of their careers, and they would come to Chelsea, and it was glamorous for us. And it was certainly building and going in the right direction for us. Then enter the hero of all heroes, was Roman Abramovich. And when Roman Abramovich came, everything changed. Everything went to the level that we're at now in football, where, it was a fast turnover of players. It was whether you agreed with it or not. And at times I didn't agree with it, but who am I? But Chelsea were winning every season, trophy after trophy. I want to say in 21 seasons, we won something like 15, 16 trophies. It was ridiculous. I mean, sometimes 2 a season. And what I didn't agree with was the turnover of management, but it worked. I don't think anyone really agreed with it, in the football world. We had, I think Conte won the Premiership and the FA Cup, and then next season he was gone. I want to say Gus, didn't we win the Premiership and then he got fired? I think, we've had a lot of managers, so you know where this is going. So it was a great moment for Chelsea, but when the British government got in and got involved and started penalising Chelsea, which was ridiculous. Football's meant to be a standalone thing, and whatever you think, I disagreed with it personally. I thought it was wrong, but that was the beginning of the end, or the beginning of the new era for Chelsea, where they had to sell the club, or Abramovich had to sell the club.
Well, you were the new boys on the block, so to speak, when Abramovich came in, and I think it kind of upset the balance of the Premier League. You've got your Liverpools, your Man Uniteds, your Arsenals.
Well, it wasn't the balance. It was the they didn't. No one likes it when there's a new boy in the town who's taking and winning everything. Manchester City, for example, right? The Chelsea were always that team that was never in that top bracket. And then Mourinho, enter the attitude, enter the spend. It is a new wave of football. It was nothing. I don't necessarily. I think it's unfair to put that on Chelsea. It was just the new way. Man U, Arsenal, Liverpool, they all had it their way, and suddenly there was a new approach to football. And there's been a new approach to football at Chelsea with the new owners when they bought all these young kids on an app. Now, whether you agree with it, it's a different approach. Now you look at football now. It's obviously tamed down with what's going on with Manchester City, but Newcastle have got all the money, but they can't buy all the players. If you notice, football's changed, and I don't know enough about the financial side to go into the detail, but the new kids on the block are Newcastle with all the money, but this fair spending, they can't buy everything and these players that they want to.
But City can, or could.
Well, City can't. City could. That's my understanding. Again, if there's someone out there who's watching this or listening to this, probably got a lot more information on it than me. I don't follow it that intensely on what's going on behind the scenes, but I know enough. Obviously, Newcastle would have done what Manchester City or Chelsea had done. I think. Sorry, go on.
I think football is a bit like fashion, because Liverpool had their heyday in the 70s, and obviously then Man United did the 80s with Liverpool, then it was United all the time, then Arsenal started popping their ugly heads up, and then obviously the influx with money for Chelsea, you started to win. And then United did a few, and then Liverpool starting to come back. So, and then obviously Man City. But, as a football fan, I'm not just a Liverpool supporter, I'm a football supporter as well. And it's just, I think you and I come from the old school, where it wasn't too much money involved. Now there's, billions of pounds involved in football, and all these new competitions popping up. What's your take on that, Paul? Because
I'll tell you my take on it, that the football has turned into, whether we like it or not, the top clubs from Newcastle upwards are owned by extremely successful people, whether it's Liverpool, Chelsea, Man U, whatever, right? And those clubs generally are not run to make money. I think that they are billionaires, not millionaires, billionaires' toys. When you're I think when you're at that moment in your life and you are that successful and you got that amount of money, it doesn't come down to, necessarily being a direct fan. It comes down to it's a toy. It's, you own a football club, you can bring your mates, as long as the business, and most of these clubs, I think, run at a financial loss. I don't think they make as much money as we think. I think that when it comes down to the bottom line, they probably lose money, but it's a toy for the billionaires. And just this small bracket, whether it's the UK or Paris Saint-Germain, I think is run the same way. I don't think, maybe Real Madrid, Barcelona lost a fortune. We know that, as common knowledge. So that's how I kind of see it. Then if you go down a few tiers, the Brightons are run as a business, a very well run business, right? Finding the right players for a low amount of money, moving them on further down the line, but having a structure and system put in place that you're still successful. And that's a fine line to walk, because if you're selling your best players, you could go down. Look at Wolves. Wolverhampton, there's a lot of good players that come through Wolves, right? But they seem to move on. But they're going to be lucky if they probably will stay up, because Southampton are down, Leicester probably are down. Ipswich is that team that, they beat us 2-0 at home. I mean, who would have ever put money on Ipswich beating Chelsea, dominating that game? I mean, we didn't turn up. So I think they're just about to stay up, but you got to be careful. So I honestly think these toy boys have got billions and want to own a football club.
Well, I mean, Liverpool lost 57 million from not being in the Champions League last season.
There you go.
57 million, is a lot of money to us, but to the owners, it's nothing. Because they've got their hands in different pies. So,
well, Liverpool, as far as I understand, have got. Don't they own Boston Red Sox?
Yeah.
They own a couple of other things, just like Chelsea. I mean, Todd owns the LA Dodgers, and I don't know if it's the Clippers basketball as well, but certainly owns baseball. So I think when you look at the bigger picture, and as you said, it's a ridiculous amount of money to lose, but the bigger picture is the company and what. Sports is a gamble anyway. So I think it's an ego thing for a lot of a small amount of extremely rich individuals.
Well, I wanted to ask you, what's your favourite football match you've seen?
Well, we started to have a very awkward rivalry with Barcelona in the Champions League. And it was, we went through a period where I think it was the season after that goal we scored at Anfield, where it was disallowed because there was no VAR and we would have knocked you out the Champions League semi-final. I remember a clear goal. I mean, even Mourinho, we all know, as a Chelsea fan, it was a clear goal. You were smiling, Daz. I can see you smiling there. So,
of course I am. Yeah.
But that season onwards, we ended up playing Barcelona in the quarterfinals and semi-finals for like 3 years on the run. I mean, it was Liverpool before that, and it was a niggling game. It was niggling games, and I went, and I don't get this. I went to the new camp on 2 occasions, and they put the away supporters in the far corner, and what they do around them is they have speakers, and they play. I don't know if you're aware of this. They play music, right? So they try and drown out the away fans, which I thought was wrong. I didn't think Barcelona need to do that. That's a low ball, right? It's a low ball moment. And I'm going around it in a long way to answer your question, but here it comes. So there was always this niggle between Barcelona. We beat them there a couple of seasons, and then there was one season they came to Chelsea, and this was the game. We lost I think we either won the game but lost the tie, or they scored and they went through on an away goal. But it should never have happened. And the goal was scored in the last 5 minutes of extra time. I think it was by Xavi or Alonso or what was the other midfield player? Fantastic midfield player for Barcelona. You know what I mean?
Little fella as well.
Yeah. Anyway, Iniesta. Anyway, we should have, and everyone knew this watching the game. We should have had penalties. Drogba went down twice. The referee was so biased. That was the game, because we should never have lost it. We were good enough to win it, and we lost it on referees' errors. And that's just not a Chelsea fan. That's all fans. You know, you only want something that's fair. And anyone who watched that game or rewatches that game will go, come on, man. I mean, there were blatant tackles that went down there. And that was the game for me that was, you know, because it's a semi-final of a Champions League that, you know, really, by watching the game, you'd won.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the thing, you know, the officiating on the last 15.
Do you remember that game where in the World Cup in Africa, South Africa, when Lampard scored the goal against Germany?
Mm-hmm.
And that wasn't given, and we're all sitting here on the TV going, what game is the fucking referee watching? Or more importantly, the linesman.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you're meant to be tracking the ball back, but that's human error. So, you know, you can't. I'm sure there's things against us, Chelsea, that people have moaned and complained, and I'm sure they will moving forward.
Well, I mean, our history, you know, Liverpool and Chelsea, especially the last 10 years as well. You know, we've been in plenty of finals against you.
Yeah. I mean, those 2 finals last year was ridiculous. I mean, you know, you won both. I think one of them was a header late in the game by Van Dijk. The other one I can't remember. But we should have won one of them, because you had a much younger, inexperienced team. And that's what pisses me off about Chelsea is, come on, guys. You know what I mean? You're all world-class guys. We've got a couple of players who won a World Cup. And, you know, you're on these. I don't believe that. Not no one, because I do think a few Liverpool players, actually, that's a good example, and maybe Newcastle, play for the badge. Generally, players don't play for the badge no more. All this kissing the badge, unless you grew up in Liverpool as a kid and you played for that team, or you supported them, you know, and you're English, let's be honest. You know, I mean, it's different if you're a Brazilian coming here. You're not playing for the badge. You're playing for the money. And that's okay. Don't kid a supporter. We know that now, right? I don't expect you to be coming from Argentina to be playing for the badge if you grew up in Boca, which is a poor neighborhood of Buenos Aires, and now you're on 200 grand a week in pounds rather than, that you're playing for the badge. You've got a break. You're young. Good, great. But play. Because we the supporter, whoever you support, we grew up with these teams. This is our livelihood. This is our life. So you expect a certain level. I like honesty of players when they come out and say, "Look, not in these words, but we fucked up. We didn't play as well." I mean, and in my profession, I travel all over the world. People don't want to know if I'm tired and I've been on an aircraft for 7 hours and I've been waiting 3 hours in the airport. I have to deliver. You pay good money to come and see me. I have to give you a minimum 100%. And when I get into that DJ booth and I'm prepared, I'm there, I'm in the moment, I will give you your best 2 hours. And I expect that from footballers.
Well, I mean, just like you said, nobody gives a shit if you've got jet lag. Nobody gives a shit if you have a headache. When you're in the booth, you deliver, and I'm the same. As long as you give me blood, sweat, and tears, and you play, for the team, and if we lose, we lose. Lose trying.
Lose trying, exactly.
That's all I can say. But I'll tell you what, I want to bring this up. Thank God Stevie G didn't get in that car and go all the way to Stamford Bridge and sign for Mourinho that year, because that would have broken my heart.
Yeah, I don't think that would have ever happened, because we touched on this. He was a player who grew up. He knows the area, his family, his friends. He played for the badge, and back in those days, look, I'll give you an example. You had Sol Campbell. He played for Tottenham. He moved to Arsenal, right? You had Luis Figo. He played for Barcelona. He moved to Real Madrid. Those times were different, right? I think it would have benefited England, right? But I don't think it would have benefited Liverpool. And here's what I mean by that. Two of the greatest midfielders that Britain has ever put out there, right? And those golden days of whether it was Scholes, Beckham, blah, 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 in that England team, right? We couldn't figure out, or the management, and was it Sven Eriksson? Who was it at that time? Couldn't figure out how to play Gerrard and Mourinho together, Gerrard and Lampard together, right? Mourinho would have figured that out, because if Mourinho had bought Gerrard, he hasn't bought him to replace Lampard. Lampard do you know Lampard's our top scorer of all time, and he's a midfield player?
Yeah, it's nuts.
You know how he was unbelievable in the way he could read a game and turn up in the box at exactly the right time to score. He wouldn't be playing a centre forward role or a number 10. He would play a midfield player, would sit back and move forward. So Mourinho would have figured out how to play the best two midfield players in Britain together, which only helps England. And I honestly think it would have changed the dynamic of that team, England's national team, because you've got two players who are brilliant playing together every week, who would have dominated the midfield. And that's where, because we had the forwards, we've always scored goals. England have always had generally good goalkeepers, solid defence, and good attackers. And where do you put Paul Scholes in this? Where do you put Paul Scholes in with Gerrard? Because none of them are holding midfielders. So you still got to figure it all out. But Mourinho was at the top of his game, man. I mean, and Mourinho brought something new to the Premiership, and he would have figured it out at that time.
No, Mourinho was class back in the day. He was cheeky. He was very good tactician. I think the game has kind of passed him over a little bit now.
Yeah, well, I think with Mourinho, look, we love him. He won us many things. But you're right. And I think his attitude needed to change because, we all like a winner, but we don't like an arrogant person. And that arrogance was a turn-off for a lot of people. But I'll just tell you one thing. One of my favourite all-time players was Diego Costa. Diego Costa was someone that you would want. And I'm saying this, if I ask you a question, would you want Diego Costa in your team?
Yeah, of course. I love his
everyone would want him in their team, but everyone who the team that he was in, which was Chelsea, everyone hated Chelsea or hated him because he was that player. He was a great player, man. The first season he arrived. See, Diego Costa, Chelsea played Atletico Madrid in the semi-final of the Champions League. It was a game I always remember. So we beat Atletico Madrid 1-0 in Madrid. And I still in my heart thought, we ain't going to beat these guys. We just won't beat them. They're going to come to Chelsea and they're going to do us. And it was 1-1. And there was rumours that we were going to buy Diego Costa and Atletico Madrid get the penalty, right? And up walks Diego Costa. And the Chelsea fans are going berserk because we don't want him to score and we're booing him and we're doing everything we can, knowing full well that he's going to become a hero for us. And he rattled Chelsea. He scored, obviously. They scored another. They went through. And the next season, we love him. And he was our hero, scored 21 goals. Everyone hated him. And that was Diego Costa. And when he left Chelsea, it was terrible. It was because the way Conte got rid of him was disgusting. It's quite commonly known that he called him and said, "We don't want you next season." And Conte left, by the way, next season. And Chelsea had got rid of him. And then I think he went back to Madrid, then went on to Wolverhampton Wanderers. And I don't know what happened there, but he was one of my all-time favourite players.
Yeah, for me, I'm obviously not a Chelsea fan, but I loved Drogba and Kante, just two class players, especially because Drogba with the battle he had with Carragher, constant. Yeah. If you ask Carragher who was his, the forward he would have the biggest battle with, it was Drogba. Drogba would say Carragher as well. I miss those days. But what do you think of the new setup for Maresca? You've got Cole Palmer, who's an absolute talent.
Yeah, I think look, I would have. I think we needed to keep some of the experience within the team. Kante's still playing, right? Instead of getting rid of everyone and starting again, I would have sprinkled some of the experience and knowledge that we have with the newer players in. That showed last season when we were 2-0 up at home against Arsenal with 15 minutes to go, and if you'd have experience to calm it all down and know we're going to dig in, we're going to do this, follow our lead, we've been here 100 times before. They had no one who could do that. And then Arsenal went and scored 2 goals and could have scored a third and beat us within that 15 minutes. But that really showed where Chelsea lacked experience. But I do think, watch this space, because we are getting better as a squad, right? And if there's things within the squad they're tinkering with, the goalkeeper, the forward, Jackson being injured now, and what's the shape and who's going to play that centre forward role? Is it Palmer? Who is it? They're figuring it out, and I reckon it's another year or a year after. There's a little pig. Sorry, we've got a horse chasing a pig round. Look at that! Look. Should film that, Lane. That's quite funny. Yeah, hopefully he doesn't kick it. Anyway, yeah, so go outside, film it. It's hilarious. I mean, it's really chasing. Sorry about that, Daz. We now got 2 horses. Anyway, yeah, let's get on with it because I haven't got much longer.
Well, where and as you alluded to, I think if Maresca can keep this squad together, get a few, I think you lack a world class keeper, you lack a world class centre back. I think there's just 3 or 4 positions in your squad that you kind of need to progress. But
a world class goalkeeper, yep. I mean, we had one with, Real Madrid tend to buy a lot of our players.
They tend to buy everyone's players.
Yeah. I mean, well, I don't think they've gone into the Liverpool camp or Man U camp in years. It seems to be, I mean, it's Coulthard, it's Hazard, it's Rummenigge. Is it Rummenigge? Yeah.
Rugia.
Rudy, yeah, it was. He was. Our defense. Remember we had the Brazilian was our world class defender up until last season.
Mm-hmm.
What was his name? Can you help me out here?
Thiago Silva.
Thiago Silva. So we're getting there, but yeah, I mean, it's a different animal now. It's a different game. Wow, look at the horses now. It's unbelievable what they're doing. I hope they don't kill it.
As long as they're just chasing it and not,
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, sorry, go
on. We've touched on the football, so if you can give me, we
got time for one more question.
All right, one more question then. Let's do, where do you see dance music in the next 5 to 10 years?
Well, dance music, and it's a good question because I can answer that really quickly and to the point. Dance music is still growing and growing and growing worldwide. We are now in the Middle East. There is a massive dance music festival in Saudi Arabia. In 1 month's time, go to Cambodia. 2 cities in Cambodia I'm DJing. I go to 2 cities in Vietnam. I played in Kazakhstan in December. So you see that the reach of dance music is getting bigger and bigger and bigger because of the internet. Kids are seeing it and going, we want a part of that. Also movies. I'm still doing a lot of music within the movie world, and it's dance music. Games, dance music, commercials, dance music. It's everywhere, and it's just it's still one of the fastest growing industries within music is dance. More than rock, of course, not more than pop. Pop will always be the number one because it's popular, but rock, rap, jazz, dance music is becoming much more popular. And I'll leave you on this. The problem that dance music has got is the lane is too busy because kids, when we were growing up, if you wanted to be in music and you wanted to be an artist performing, you'd pick up a guitar, learn the drums, sing a songwriter. That's why you got the demise of bands, because you have to learn and do something and practice. But now with DJing, technology has made it so easy that anyone can become a DJ. Now, whether they become a DJ is not a great DJ. They don't understand the art of DJing. That's gone, unfortunately. Taking you on a journey, whether it's in key, structure, arrangement, the story that you're telling through music, the emotion, the connection that we have between the DJ and the fan. Well, technology has made it so easy that the next generation of DJs, whether they're influencers or they just want that stardom, it's a pre-recorded set, it's banging your stick, 1 hour, the same music that you've heard from everyone. That doesn't work for me. That's not what a DJ is really about. But it's not about what I think, it's about where we are. And you've got to move with times. You've got to be aware of change and don't shun change, embrace change. If you don't, you're going to be left behind. And that's the way it is. You don't have to necessarily like change, but you've got to move with it. And what you've got to realise, we all got to realise, is change is upon us every day, right? So I'm now talking to you on a phone, doing a Zoom, and years ago that would never have happened. So we're embracing this moment of change, and this is good. But with DJing dance music, it's only going to get bigger, and there are only going to be more and more DJs. You know, there's 20,000 dance records released every week. That's 80,000 dance records a month. Do you know how hard it is to get through that noise to go, hey, I'm over here. This is my new record. Check it out.
Thank you so much, mate. I really appreciate it. It's been an absolute honour to have a little chat with you about footy and then a little smidgen of music. But you've been in my musical landscape since I was like 18 years old. So kudos to you, mate. You're still doing it.
Appreciate that. Yeah, thank you so much, and good luck with everything. And I hope you win the league. I hope you win the Champions League and the league. There you go.
And the Carabao Cup. Come on.
Well, I want Newcastle. We've got to give something to Newcastle. They've got fantastic supporters also. So,
they do, but I want to see him lose. So
yeah, I'm sure. All right, buddy. You take care.
You too. Cheers, mate.
Thank you. Bye.